Well, good morning, good afternoon. Hello to everyone. Thank you so much for joining the Impact webinar today. My name is Kammy Horne, and I am the CEO of Impact. And I'm thrilled to be with you here today to talk about elevating the transit journey. And I'd just like to get started talking just a little bit, giving you a little bit of a background of Impact and who we are. So you can see we were founded as Railvolution in Portland in 1995. And hello to everyone who joined us in Portland for our 30th anniversary celebration last month. It was really fabulous, and it was so great to interact with all of you, many who've been involved with the organization for some time. So we are most known for our conference, but we also have other programs that we work on throughout the year. This webinar in particular is part of our Voices series that is led by Hillary Reeves, and I'm going to give a shout out to Hillary for all the work that she's done putting this webinar and many others together this year. It's really been a lot of fun, a lot of successful interaction. And we have our place-based capacity building work that we do as part of Impact Lab. I also want to just give a shout out to our Innovators program led by Trinity Eck, and you can see more information about all of this on our website. That's that. And so I am also excited to announce, as we talked about in Portland, our conference next year is going to be in Toronto, September 14th to 17th. And our call for speakers is going to be opening in January of 2026. So please definitely be on the lookout for all of that. That is the way to get involved. And then I'll also be sharing my contact information in the chat in just a little bit. If you have any more information on partnerships or sponsorships or the innovators or anything that you want to know about Impact, you can certainly drop me a line and I'll be happy to share that information with you. So on to the webinar, and for this webinar, it has been so wonderful to collaborate with HNTB as a champion sponsor. Thank you, HNTB, to provide a window into customer experience in the transit environment. You are going to hear how customer experience has grown as a focal point in recent years, and also hear how two agencies are approaching this work. So thank you so much to HNTB for your support and involvement with Impact. And I am happy and excited to turn this over to Vince Tam. Vince is a senior urban planner leading customer experience initiatives with HNTB. And Vince was very instrumental in putting this webinar together. So thank you to Vince, and then also in advance, thank you to Sarah and Julia. Looking forward to the discussion. And so on to you, Vince.
Thank you, Kammy, and welcome everyone. Hello to where you are. I would like to kind of just go through a few housekeeping items before rolling to the introduction of our webinar. So there is a chat function. If you kind of hover over the bottom bar, we would love there's a live chat, like chat away. I know there are a lot of practitioner leaders in the audience. I'm still seeing the numbers going up. We are up 200 plus participants. So if anything, perk your interest or you want to add references and links, we definitely welcome live chat. But if you have questions for our panelists that you really would like us to answer, we have about 10 to 15 minutes in the end that we want to leave for answering questions from the audience. That should have a promote button for questions that people ask. So if you see, oh, that is the questions that I would really want to hear, then you can hit the promote button in order to kind of like promote certain questions that we will answer those first. Uh, this webinar is approved for 1 hour AICP credit. There is a link on the Mpact website if you want more information or a direct link. All right, well, let's roll into our webinar. So let me go back to my slides. Okay. Well, it is just truly excited to share this next hour with you to talk about a topic that is just near and dear to my heart. It's about the customer experience. I think since COVID-19, there is a decline in ridership. Can you believe it has been 5 years since COVID? And a lot of the agency is turning towards improving the customer experience in order to win the customer back. It has been a defining forces in shaping how agency operate, how rider perceive transit, and ultimately how the system kind of get that ridership back. Today, I would like to bring this topic to the Mpact community because the customer experience is in the intersection of many topics that the Mpact network cares about: ridership, equitable mobility, successful TOD, and integrated planning. CX looked at this first person experience, how people feel, and the experience is very abstract thing that it's really hard to grasp when a lot of times agency really focused on the system, the infrastructure, stations, something that is more hard and cold. But then on the flip side, the receiving end of the rider is their emotion and their experience along their journey. So we'll unpack a little bit more about how we tie that relationship together. So from a broad view, there is a remarkable momentum of CX program across the US and Canada. If you look at this very simple chart, but it's very powerful because you can see the number of CX program across different agencies drastically increased just within the last few years. And I think this is a response to that COVID-19 decline, and then the shift to really addressing how people feel throughout their journey. And there are many, over 60 of these programs. They all come with different shapes and sizes and different forms. But there are some common elements in the CX programs that we have observed, like these customer first experience, wayfinding, the culture within the agency itself, and how they engage their employee in order to provide that customer experience, technology, accessibility. And we definitely will touch on a few of these topics with our panelists here today. And before I bring them up, I would like to introduce another list of these quotes from agency. And you can see these are pulled from the plans and webinars that I have heard from. And these quotes really show how a lot of these systems have really focused on the people, how they're using it. Next slide, please. And this one of my favorite from Nadine Lee, CEO of DARD, talks about how she would like the customer to fall back in love with DARD and eventually get married. So this is taking the relationship to a whole other level, like that commitment, dedication to serving its customer. I just think it's so beautiful. And then the next slide show you, these are the plans in that 68 number categories. Like these are all very recent plan about how agency created this action plan. What are they going to address in those 3 to 5 years? Some are a bit more like tactical, like immediate quick win. Some of them are a little bit longer with bigger impact. And before I turn this into to our panelists, I want to introduce this concept of hierarchy of needs. It created a really big impact of how I understand these various elements relate to each other. So at the bottom of this triangle, the hierarchy of needs, is the system infrastructure. So if you go to the next slide, and these are the fundamental needs, is the physical need, what transit agencies made out of. They provide the system infrastructure, the train, the track, the signal, like these help to start to create like how to bring people from A to B. And then the next step is provide safe, clean, and reliable services that most of the people start to like, okay, if I choose to use it, that is the next step of the fundamental needs that people are looking from their agency. And then the next step, building onto this triangle, is the customer amenities and staff interaction. Do you start to say hello to your bus driver? Do they smile back at you? Do you start to recognize similar familiar faces when you go to the train station? And then the next step, these customized features, collaboration, and that could start to talk about collaborations with local government, like TOD, the development community, things that around the station, one step outside the transit services that provide people more than connecting them from A to B, but they can do more along their journey. And the next step, and I call it like the unique delight, is just so different from different people, but these are the emotional things that kind of like go from, oh, like I'm just taking it as my day-to-day need to something that I just love. I recommend people, you got to use it because it touch a special place in your heart. Maybe it is about how it recognizes certain festival, how it speak a certain language to, you know, people that are around you, or you speak a different language and they have that, and you thought it was very special, but it is very emotional and special to different writers. So it kind of need to like build that up and then start thinking about the order, what do people need fundamentally, and then it kind of move up to that emotional triangle. So with that, I would like to bring up our two panelists today. We have Sarah Myers, Chief Experience Officer, and Julia Gessner. And she is Director of Administration with DARD. I have an easy job because I'm going to just introduce them and they actually will talk to you more about what they do in the agency. We'll go to Sarah first.
Not yet. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Great.
we can hear you, and the screen share is loading. Oh, there you go. Mm-hmm.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sarah Meyer. I'm the Chief Customer Officer here at Metro, otherwise known as WMATA in DC, stands for Washington Metro Transit Authority. I am, hold on one, there we go. I've been with WMATA for about 2 years. My primary goal is to advocate for more frequent safe service, just like Vince was mentioning. In those hierarchy of needs, the most important thing that we can advocate for is better frequency and safer service. I also work with a great team here at Metro, making transit easier to access, easier to understand. My focus is building trust through transparency and reducing confusion and anxiety along the way. My background is I actually graduated with an art history degree and then worked in advertising and marketing and communications at various consultancies, working with Fortune 500 companies. And I'm really happy to be able to bring some of the things I've learned about marketing and font size even to make sure that our customers on transit can see where they're going, understand where they're going, and get to where they need to go as quickly and as safely as possible. I'm also the mom of 2 little girls who love transit probably more than I do. So just wanted to mention that. Just a quick slide on Metro's impact by the numbers. We were thrilled that we're the APTA Award for Outstanding Transit Agency of the Year. We've had really high customer satisfaction numbers on both rail and bus. And that's, again, really due to the increases in frequency and service that we've made. We are now at 75% of our customers on rail have service that's 6 minutes. 6 minutes on average, and that is just a huge accomplishment. When just a couple of years ago, we were looking at 25-minute waits on our most popular lines. The red line is one of our most popular. And, I remember coming in for my job interview and looking at that countdown clock and seeing an 18-minute wait, and it was just crushing. And now, we are looking at 6-minute waits every day, and it's such a huge difference for customer experience. We've also made a significant investment in the reduction of crime levels in safety and security by having a lot more uniformed officers walk through our trains and buses. That has led to the lowest level of crime in 8 years. And really, I think that has been hugely helpful into our customer satisfaction numbers. Our public safety camera system also is something that we are very proud of. We've got more than 30,000 cameras now working. So, folks know that if they're into any, we call, funny business on the system, we will have their picture. And that is something that our customers now know. So really excited that we can have more safe, comfortable experiences for our customers. So talking a little bit more about customer experience and where my focus is, I'm a transit user. My team are transit users. I think it's so important that we ride the system and that we listen to both our customers and our internal stakeholders as much as possible, both in person and online. We do a lot of gathering best practices, just like Vince showed us. We read our colleagues' plans. We look at and meet as many other individuals in these same roles so that we can take what's working and borrow what's working and hopefully improve upon it to make sure that we have the best technology for our customers in terms of, anything from GTFS arrival data to how to talk about directionality underground in a system when we talk about wayfinding. We also, I just wanted to mention, compromise in customer experience is always something that I think about and I, need to work through. We all know that transit is an underfunded industry overall, and that requires us all making compromises. But doing those compromises in a way that, moves the needle is something that I think, I try to hammer home to my colleagues. Because if we're not moving the needle, then we're going to continue to lose more and more of our rider share to other services. So customer experience at WMATA, we take a look at the customer journey map, the ways that our customers use our system. So we know that, from the minute that they think about how they're going to plan their travel, if it's discretionary or if it's, for work, they're using digital devices, they're hearing from friends and family, they're looking at the news. Did something just happen on Metro that influences their decision? So this is where we're doing as much as we can on the reputation front, on our websites, on our advertising to show, all of the improvements that we've made over the last several years. Then we go to planning a trip. We're spending a lot of resources. We just launched a new app. It's called Metropulse, and it shows real-time arrival of buses as well as an open trip planner. And I know many of my colleagues and those on this call have done a lot in this area over the last 5 years. And I thank you for all of the open source work that you're all doing to make this better. Payment. This is, we just launched Tap Where I Go, very exciting, on credit cards on bus yesterday. So that's a, huge win for customer experience, taking the stress out of trying to operate a moving bus, entering dollars into a feeder, and, just thrilled that we're able to offer credit card on bus now, and hoping that that makes a huge difference in terms of both our fare evasion numbers and in our customer satisfaction. Next is navigate. This is an area that, when I first arrived at WMATA, was my primary focus, because I was lost, so lost coming to work every day, getting on the wrong train, exiting the wrong exit, and it felt like you had to be in the cool person's club to be able to understand where to go. And so I'm just trying to put better signs out there, and working with our teams to do what we can to offer just easy directionality and easy wayfinding. Next up is wait. This is really focused on our digital infrastructure and our digital signs that are our arrivals. That has been taking a lot of investment, and looking forward to the next several years, where we have very good on-time arrival data for both bus and rail. Riding, we're making a lot of investments into our vehicles right now. We have our 8K trains, which are being produced in Hagerstown, Maryland, by Hitachi. Really excited to see those come down the line. Also, new buses, new screens on buses, making sure that the seats on the buses are comfortable. Those are all areas that my team and I are engaged with. And then post-travel, this is the really important survey data that we get back that helps inform all of these different levels of investment that we're making along the customer journey. Just a quick update around the key projects that customer experience at Metro is focused on. I think I talked a little bit about my background being very focused on branding. Here we have a slide that sort of shows what our Metro branding used to look like and where we're going. Lot of different images, a lot of different programs, really trying to make it really clear for the customer that bus and rail are the same network. It's the same payment system, and there are free transfers. So doing what we can on that front to just streamline our standards and reduce confusion. Just a couple of quick examples on how we're changing our wayfinding and our signs. Again, I'm very big on font size. You don't need a big customer experience department. You sometimes just need to increase your font size to make it easier for customers to understand and realize and know where they're going, and do what we can around opening up different types of cardinal directions, different types of wayfinding, so that people understand where they're going. The last thing I just wanted to touch on is the importance of merchandising. And this is an example again of us taking great ideas from our peers. I know, Bart and had this great idea for a holiday sweater a couple years ago. We are now have our own holiday sweater, and doing what we can to build those advocacy moments. When I got to Metro, there was a lot of focus on, not a lot, but in terms of, there was a budget for advertising, and we were spending money on social media advertising. And here is where I've shifted some of those funds to focus on our merchandise, because I think that there's nothing more powerful than seeing someone in the DMV, or even, I was in LA a couple months ago and saw somebody wearing a Metro sweatshirt. There is, nothing more powerful than seeing people be brand advocates and advocate for transit. And this is where, really just thrilled to have these pop-up stores that have been really successful here. Our last pop-up store we did in September, and we raised, we brought in $300,000, which is sort of eye-opening to know that there are people that want to wear our merch, and we're happy to keep ideating on that and developing more. So our next pop-up is November 30th at the MLK Library. Also, please, if you're across the country, feel free to support us and advocate for transit by going to dcmetrostore.com. And Vince, if you wanted to take it over, I'm sure my colleague Julia has a lot to share.
Yeah, Julia, I'll bring you up. Julia's here in Dallas with DART. Julia, if you're ready, we'd love to hear a little bit about you and DART.
Yeah, thank you, Vince. And Sarah, I will definitely be looking up your shop to buy one of those Christmas sweaters. Combines two of my favorite things, transit and the holiday season. So I am Julia Gessner. I'm Director of Development Administration at DART. I've been with DART for about a year. Before that, I was Director of Performance at TransDev. And before I was in that role, I was actually with First Transit and First Vehicle Services as Director of Administration and Chief of Staff. So a lot of my background is more on transit operations and also making sure that multiple different departments are working together and communicating so that ultimately we have a good experience with our passengers and with our employees. So a little bit about DART. DART was established in 1983. We are the regional transit system connecting North Texas residents in 13 member cities across 700 square miles. Our vision is to be the region's first in mind mobility partner, and our mission is to create best-in-class mobility experiences that help people and communities connect and flourish. Right now, we do that by our extensive system. We have a 93-mile light rail system. We have over 520 buses that we operate. Bus is still our primary mode at DART. Over 50% of our ridership comes from bus. We have a 34-mile Trinity Railway Express commuter line that runs between Dallas and Fort Worth that we run with Trinity Metro, and DART oversees the operations of that. And we also just opened under a month ago, 26-mile Silver Line commuter rail that has 10 stations that run east-west across our northern suburbs and to DFW Airport. So new connection to DFW Airport. If you're coming to Dallas, definitely check it out. It's a wonderful, smooth, beautiful ride. Almost all of the stations have TOD attached to them. So we're really proud of that line and what it's doing for the community and the region. We also have one of the largest microtransit systems in the United States. We have 30 microtransit zones now. We're seeing significant increases in ridership in our microtransit zones, and we're very excited for the work we've been able to do in that space. We also operate a 2.4-mile streetcar that's owned by the city of Dallas, and we have an extensive paratransit system. We actually provide paratransit service across the entirety of our system, not just at the ADA requirement of a 3/4 mile of our fixed route system. So really proud of the work that we're doing there. So as we look at the customer experience, we don't have this bucketed into one department at DART as of right now. What we have is we have a working group that identifies different areas that different departments are working in related to customer service. And our goal right now is to really create this circular way of approaching customer service where we're looking at insights, we're looking at our culture, and then we're looking at our impact, and that we're constantly moving this forward. One thing that I think happens a lot is when people talk about customer service, they talk about, oh, we're going to do this, and this is how we're going to approach it, and we'll just get our employees to be nicer to everybody, and then that'll create a great experience for all of our customers. When the reality is we need to be thinking bigger. We need to be understanding what people's experiences are riding the system, what their experiences are not riding the system. One of our major highways in DFW is Highway 75, and we have our orange and red light rail lines that run parallel to that highway. You're having a customer experience with DART, whether you realize it or not, when you're sitting in traffic on Highway 75. So how do we make sure that those individuals are having an understanding of what they are getting out of DART, even if they're not necessarily writing the system? And how do we make sure that that becomes part of our culture and our mindset, and that it bleeds not only throughout our organization, but throughout the region? So one of the things that is a little bit different in my role here at DART than what I've done in the past is that I'm on the development team. So within the development team, I always say we're responsible for building everything, fixing everything that's big, and then handing it over to ops and then letting them operate and maintain it. So right now we are embarking on a system modernization program called DART Transform. It has 5 core elements: vehicles, unified signaling system, resiliency, stations and passenger facilities, and operating facilities. Now, when we think about customer experience, typically we're thinking about our passengers, right? But one thing that's really important for us to think through as transit professionals is, how do we make sure that we're also reaching our employee customers? And how do we make sure that they have the tools and resources to work efficiently so that we can continue to operate service? Our passengers might not feel or understand what resiliency is, but they understand when their train doesn't show up because we've had an issue with weather that our team wasn't able to put our system back in place quick enough. So they might not actually see these items. So how do we make sure that we're continuing to communicate with them as we collect feedback? So one way that we're trying to look at the customer feedback and relate it to that major infrastructure project is through our passenger journey mapping. And so actually we partnered with HNTB on this project, and we looked at all of the steps of the passenger journey and asked each passenger about their experiences along these ways so that we could learn more about what we need to incorporate into DART Transform. We did both quantitative and qualitative analysis. My background in academia was actually in media psychology, so understanding how different people interpret different messages. So I'm always a big fan of making sure that you do need to get quantitative data, but you also need to get the qualitative data. Look, understand, feel, understand what your passengers are experiencing, and don't ever not take the opportunity to make note of that, even if it's only anecdotal. So what the team then did was they were able to actually go in and create a full dashboard for us, which I won't have time to get into today. But what that dashboard outlines is essentially what our score is on a scale of 1 to 10 and where we see positives and negatives within each step of the journey. So one of the things that we do have a really high rating on is purchasing your ticket. Sarah brought up trip planning and purchasing and tapping on your bus system to be able to ride. That our system is set up that way. But one area that we don't have a very good customer experience is with our ticket vending machines. We're in the process of replacing those, so we already have a win in place there. But that is an area where when people are using our Go Pass, we were able to actually granularly look at this survey information and see those were the people who were pulling up that number. Going to and waiting at your platform, we noticed that that experience, when we overlaid that with the qualitative data that we had, that was uncomfortable. We did this survey in July and August in Texas. It was over 100 degrees outside several days. So what can we do to provide shade? What can we do to the infrastructure? What can we do so that when people are getting off of their vehicle and they're looking around, or they're getting to their station and they're trying to find where they need to go, that we're not adding to their frustration, we're making it as easy and simple as possible. So the next steps with this project, it's actually still ongoing, is we're still working on organizing all of the findings, sharing them with different departments. As I said, we don't have one customer service department within DART. So one of the things that we try to do is we bring each person who kind of is a lead in different areas related to customer service together. And so we're continuing to distribute information to them, getting their feedback on what we've gathered. Vince and her team have actually been able to incorporate that into some aspects of the dashboard that they set up for us. And then we're working on developing recommendations, and then we'll have a final passenger journey mapping report. So with that, I will pass it back to Vince.
Well, thank you, Julia. Thank you, Sarah, for the introduction. You actually answered some of the questions that I have already in mind. And I saw people have been leaving messages on chats and questions. Before we go to the questions, I do have a few prepared one. Well, let's start with a personal story. I love always asking that questions. maybe Sarah can start first. Like, do you mind sharing like a personal story why CX is important to you, to your agency, to your community? You mentioned like how your first day at work, or at least first week, you're always lost, or so yeah, tell us how it ties to your personal experience.
Sure. Yes. I think, I won't forget when I interviewed, the stations, when I walked in, they did feel, some stations felt a little dark to me. And I do think lighting especially plays a huge, part of creating a welcoming, environment, and one that we all feel safe in. So that's an area that I have been continuing to advocate and talk about. It's not just the lighting, it's the way the lighting is maintained. It's the way the lights are cleaned. And this all, again, goes back to this underfunded sort of situation that we're all in. How to allocate as many resources to the things that customers care about is really important, which is why I was so, happy to see Julia's slide showing the satisfaction along the journey, to see where we might, prioritize. I mean, I have my own personal viewpoints, but I know that others have their personal viewpoints, and we need to make sure that CX represents all customers as much as possible, as we think about our limited resources and prioritizing them in the right way.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. Julia, any thoughts, personal stories you wanted to share?
Yeah, so I will just say Texas is known to be very, very car centric. So for us and our team, that's one thing that we have to overcome in general is how do we get people to have that first interaction with transit, and how do we make sure that that's an extraordinary experience? I'll just give an example of Texas OU football game weekend is one of our #1 ridership days. And so we always station people out throughout the system to help new passengers ride. And the number of people who I heard say things like, oh, wow, this was actually really easy. Oh, so how often do you guys ride? Oh, could you tell me more about Silverline and how that works? And one thing that I realized that we need to improve upon is making sure that all of the individuals across our organization have an understanding of what we are doing, where we are going, and that is so ingrained in our culture that when there's that 1 or 2 touch points that they might have with people who could potentially ride the system again, that we make sure that those experiences are really positive. And I think right now, a lot of the time in our region, sometimes we have people who they don't think about us until they need us. We're kind of the insurance policy. I have one of my friends, her sister started struggling with epilepsy issues, and she reached out to me and said, hey, can you describe to me how GoLink works, which is our microtransit service, so that I can, connect her with that service? And I explained it, I showed it to them, and she goes, oh, this is going to change her life. And we think about those passengers a lot, but making sure that we're also not only an insurance policy, but we're an exceptional experience for everyone is something that I'm really passionate about.
Yeah, thank you, Julia. I think the Goling is the on-demand service for DART, and working with Julia on the customer experience journey mapping exercise. We did several Go rides, and I think my personal experience, kind of like surprise, is how many people didn't know about this on-demand service, or how to use it, how easy it is to use it. It's kind of like once you find out, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. How do I not know? So I definitely think that there's a perception, mental barrier issues like, oh, I don't need it because I have a car, but without thinking about how transit services could actually bring a lot of more convenience than you think. But you just haven't really like go in and uncover that for you. So the next question I wanted to ask both of you in the last few years, since both of your role in your agency, what are those key challenges that you think is facing your organization? I love we have both of your organization here as a panel because you're organized really differently. Sarah has a whole team, chief experience officer doing this work, focusing on it, versus on the dark side, like all department, we're all in it together. Every department has a piece of this customer experience. What are those key challenges that you see kind of when you're trying to advance this work?
I'll start, and just wanted to mention, I find that our biggest challenges happen when our goals aren't aligned, right? And aligning goals with different departments at a place that's as large as Metro, as WMATA, is sometimes challenging. And projects, right, might have been started 10, 12 years ago. RFPs, procurements take years. Technology is shifting in the space so rapidly and quickly that the requirements we wrote 3 years ago might be completely outdated by the time the contract is awarded. So those are the types of challenges that we're facing, and being able to pivot a little bit more quickly, given those technology changes. That's been what's been hard, because at the end of the day, I understand that my colleagues and we all want to deliver. At the same time, and this is where I talked a little bit about, we want to deliver something that moves the needle. We want to deliver something that our customers want. And when we're delivering technology or a product that's not relevant anymore, that's where sometimes our goals clash, and where I'm spending a lot of time.
And what do you do when certain technology, when the time that it can go into the ground, there's some newer technology that may provide better experience? How do you resolve this? Do you like, let's pause? Can we think of something else? Like, hey, let's wait for the next phase. How did you resolve that?
Yeah, some projects, unfortunately, we've had to cancel, which has been, very tough. It's hard psychologically to know that somebody's been working on something for years and it's just irrelevant, and that's hard. But we know what's best, based on the survey results we get, the outreach that we do to our riders, whether that be through our advisory councils or another way that we have been communicating with customers, to make sure that this is where they want us to put our investment and our dollars into.
Julia, any thought on your side?
Yeah, I think I agree with everything Sarah's saying, especially on the technology piece. That can be so challenging. And I think one thing that we get caught up in, just as transit agencies in general, is just we're so afraid to make the wrong decision on technology because we're afraid of how quickly it can move, that sometimes we get this analysis paralysis where we can't even just make a decision. So I think that impacts a lot of us. But I think for DART specifically, the region is growing just extremely quickly. By 2040, we're expected to outpace Chicago as the third largest metropolitan area in the United States. So we do not have time to not have a stellar transit system. And right now, with us needing to make upgrades to our transit system under DART Transform, we have a lot of opportunity to create better customer experiences. But we're also facing a lot of local and state level pressures to make changes to how we operate, how we get funding. So there's a lot of noise and distraction going on around that. And so one of our biggest challenges is just making sure that every customer, and when I say customer, I mean not just our riders, but every single person in this region has an understanding of who we are, what we do, and what value we bring to them, whether they ride or whether they don't ride.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. Sarah, this is a question I have always wanted to ask. I've heard webinar and other talks coming from WMATA, and it's sort of like dawned on me that I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Kind of just thinking ahead because I lived here in Dallas. Like everybody is thinking about these big events that's coming to town. We have a World Cup coming. We have 9 games hosting here locally in DFW. But then looking at WMATA, it seems like you guys have a Super Bowl every month because there's some large event happen in DC. It could be a march, it could be a protest, it could be a concert. What is that customer experience like from a everyday people going to work like yourself and compared to the number of visitors that may go to DC that go to these big events? How do you guys cater and size up services or whatnot?
Yeah, it's a great question. And, just absolutely love that we're in a space where transit agencies across the world now are able to offer services for discretionary travel and events like this, because the more events happen, the more, folks that try it once, maybe they'll consider taking it more often. And so we're focused on discretionary travel. And, I would say the last 2 years have been, a huge shift for us, because whenever there would be a big event, we would always just focused on how do we get the lines at the vending machines to not be long, right? How do we get people the fare media that they need to access the system as quickly as possible? And, I remember 2 years ago, we were literally like FedExing smart trip cards to people and handing them out on buses. And now you can just use the credit card that's in your wallet and to access both our rail and bus. And so that amount of mobilization that we used to have to do is now no longer, which is a huge step forward, because now I can focus on things like crowding and service enhancements and ways to pull more gap trains and ways to get more buses to those events. So, just really happy that transit payment systems have gone so far so quickly, that we're able now to focus on more items of the customer experience that could benefit. After COVID, it's been hard to be in other people's space. We've all retreated on a lot of levels to have our own personal space, and transit is one of the only places that sort of forces you back to congregate with others. And that's something that we're continuing to try to think about and work through.
Yeah. Well, Julie, I'm turning to you on this large event conversation. You talked about Texas OU game, and locally people will go to the Mavs games or the Stars game, and that may be kind of their introduction to the DART service. In preparing for some of these large events next year, what is DART doing in preparation to move a lot of people back and forth, or the Metroplex, for that matter, because it's a DFW event?
So great question. We have the World Cup coming next summer. We have 9 games, I believe, including a semifinalist game. You can all Google me and make sure that I'm correct in saying that. I think I am. We're also hosting a fan fest, and luckily we have our green line that pulls up right in front of Fair Park, where Fan Fest will be held. So I think one of the big things that we're doing is just making sure that all of our systems and all of our maintenance and all of our employees and our staff is ready, and that they're understanding the opportunity that we have here to really shine on a global scale. We have a stellar transit system in Dallas, and we have a really good opportunity to have a lot of touch points with new people, and also making sure that, like Sarah said, one thing that's really concerning is making sure that the passengers who are still trying to do their normal commute, the people who might not be going to the games, those have to be your customers first. You have to make sure that those individuals who are your customers every single day are the ones that are prioritized across your system, just to to be frank. And if you're providing a stellar experience for them and then also preparing for the additional load, we should be able to provide a great experience for everyone.
Thanks, Julia. We have about 10 minutes left in this webinar, and I'm looking at our Q&A section, and I'm sort of just like glancing through, and I have a few questions that I can see. There are a few more likes than other. So I want to address some of the ones that people have more likes, and this is for Sarah. I'm going to just repeat the question. For WMATA in regard to cameras and uniform officer, what guarantees are provided to rider that they won't suffer unintended consequences of using your system in terms of interfacing with different level of enforcement, such as ICE?
Thanks, and I appreciate the question. I think we all understand and know that we live in very complicated times. Currently, there are members of the National Guard that are in many of our rail stations. Again, this wasn't a decision that we made, yet officers are here. So I cannot guarantee, as Sarah Meyer, I cannot guarantee that our riders are safe. That being said, we have put in lots of systems as much as possible to get to a better, safe, and secure system. 2 years ago, we had shootings in our stations. We had folks doing open drug use on our trains and buses. And we know and we hear from our customers that on an overwhelming basis that they are uncomfortable with that. And we have put together plans to address it. And we have seen 54 months of ridership growth as a result. And so I just want us to understand that. These are really complicated times, but I do think that WMATA is doing what's in the best interest of its customers and putting the systems in place to do that.
Thanks, Sarah. Julia, do you have anything to ask related to this question?
I think the only thing that I would add is DART is also working on, we've put together a comprehensive security plan for our agency that looks at everything from lighting, like what Sarah talked about earlier, to just how we design our infrastructure to make sure that there's visibility across our system. Additionally, when we're looking at purchasing new vehicles, one thing in our vehicles right now is they do have steps up. So we're looking at more of an open design so that you can clearly see through, because these are just different principles that have helped, SEPTED principles that have helped to reduce crime and also make people feel more comfortable. I think that's one thing that is very difficult to articulate related to security and safety is, Sarah personally can't guarantee you a safe trip, just like I can't personally guarantee you a safe trip. Now, when you're also driving your own personal car, how often do you sit in traffic because you've been in an accident, or somebody's been in an accident ahead of you, or you've been in an accident, or there's been an incident nearby? The big thing that we need to tackle, I think, is we need to show action that we're making a safe experience for our passengers in our communities, and also attack that perception, because regardless of how safe it is, there's no statistic that's going to change your feeling. So that's one thing that we're really dedicated to at DART.
Thanks, Julia. Okay, next question from the audience. I think, wow, this one has 8 likes. So I'm going to repeat this question. Did you leverage psychology or design research in the process of enhancing your wayfinding? Did you contact any user testing to assess the effectiveness of those changes? This is a perfect question for you both. Your education and your background. Yeah, let's tackle that question.
Julia, do you want to go first this time?
Yeah, I was just going to say I can go first because you've gone quite a bit. So interestingly enough, I was just on a meeting before this about wayfinding. So we're right now doing an assessment of all of our wayfinding and looking at putting together improvements to wayfinding across our system as part of our DART Transform program. We're going to be making a lot of adjustments to a lot of stations. So now is a great time to make adjustments to signage as well. So we did apply, we worked with a couple of different organizations who are very experienced with wayfinding to help us put together this information. We had them outwriting the system, getting a better understanding. They also mapped out essentially the customer journey and did some workshops with our staff about, okay, where do we feel like our wayfinding could be improved upon? Because we've all experienced wayfinding as we're navigating through our system. And it helps to just kind of, sometimes just asking your staff what their experience is. Sarah had a great story about her experience. I've got plenty of stories about riding the bus or the train and not being able to figure out where exactly I'm going once I arrive or when I'm getting on the vehicle. So making sure that you're incorporating your staff into those conversations. And then one thing that's really important too is just listening to the anecdotal information that you're getting. Sometimes you don't need to run a huge study, but go to your station, listen to what passengers are saying. When we opened our Silver Line a few weeks ago, we had a lot of feedback on some of the wayfinding information that was provided to passengers, and we're making adjustments as quickly as we can to address those concerns. It was a new service, so they hadn't ridden it before, so it was completely new to them. There was no experience to base it off of, right? Other than just experience with our system in general. So I think making sure that you're incorporating all of that into what you're designing, and also that you're not you don't need to spend a whole lot of money sometimes to just understand the experience people are having.
Sarah?
Yeah, thank you. So we've done a lot of testing. I must say that as somebody that sort of grew up listening to focus groups and doing research testing, you're sometimes not getting the valuable data that you need because you're out of the environment. So I'll take an example. We were testing new signage, and when you're doing it on online panels or in focus groups, you're outside of the actual environment. And that, I think, is to the detriment of the product. So I try to do as much testing in the system as possible. We actually just ask people to turn on their iPhones and record as they walked through L'Enfant Plaza with the new signage up to see if the new signage made a difference. We did this for both English language and Spanish language customers, and that was awesome. It does take a little bit of out of the box thinking. It's not as statistically significant as some of those online panels that we do, but like when you're looking at giant signs on a tiny computer screen, I think that's where some of us have gone awry a little bit. We just need scale, and we need to see what things actually look like in the system. So that's if you can do as many prototypes as possible. I know that could be costly too, but prototypes in the system are really the most important thing from my perspective.
Yeah, I remember creating one of my projects, doing a design guideline for a new transit line. And then one of the chapter, even it's just very preliminary, having like these plots, like the size of it. And Sarah, you're right, it's never big enough. We print again. I was like, and then we tried to look at it. I was like, okay, where will people actually stand when they see that sign? Are they in the car? Are they riding the bus? And what lesson learned is just like, it's just what you thought is big enough on the screen when you print it out, even it's just like,
Right.
plotter sheet, it's still not big enough. So and then you have to think about various people with different eyesight, not really healthy eyesight. There's that whole range of people. So I certainly agree with that. Well, we have just 1 minute left. Wow, time flies. I thought we can get one more question. But let's get to our closing thoughts with our 1 minute left. Is there any key takeaway, main message, Sarah, Julia, you want to leave us with?
I want to go to Texas and hang out with Julia a little bit. So That's my
This is the
takeaway.
right time. This is the right time. Come ride the silver line with us. Yeah.
Yeah, come ride the Silver Line. Open invitation. I'm
It's-
actually going to DC soon for
Oh,
a
good.
trip, so I'll definitely be out there.
Come
riding
visit.
WMATA.
And any last thoughts, Julia, Sarah?
I will just say, make it a part of your culture. Don't don't silo yourself. I think with us not having our own customer service kind of department like what Sarah has, I think we have a tendency to kind of be able to silo ourselves. So make it part of everybody's job to make the customer experience better.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Well, here's our contact information. If you have any follow-up question, I certainly welcome any questions.